Radha Shiva Sigura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunikiran Ki Jai Vrindavandam Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navritam Ki Jai Jagannath Dham Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktinda Ki Jai Gaura Prabhupada. All glories to the Sami devotees, all glories to the Sami devotees, all glories to the Sami devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. What was this chapter called? I don't see it here, my pad. Huh? Oh yeah? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Paksho divasam rishabhasya mahavibhute Pungsang mano nayana nivritim adadhanam Katam shakaustuva manera ribhushanartham Kuryang manasya kila loka namaskritasya Vakshodivasam rishabhasya mahavibhute Pungsang mano nayana nivritim adadhanam Kantang shakaustuva maner adhibhushanartham Kuryang manasya kila loka namaskritasya Vakshodivasam rishabhasya mahavibhute Pungsang mano nayana nivritim adadhanam Katham chakaustuva maner adhibhushanartham Kuryang manasya kila loka namaskritasya Hitasya Vakshodivasam rishabhasya mahavibhute Pungsang mano nayana nivritim adadhanam Katam chakaustuva maner adhibhushanartham Kurvang manasya kila lokanamaskritasya Vaksho divasam rishabhasya mahavibhute Pumsang mano nayana nivritim hatadhanam Katam chakaustuva manera bhusanartam Kuriyang manasya kila loka namaskritasya. Makibat? Anybody else? The ladies? Vaksho divasam rishabhasya mahavibhute Pumsang mano nayana divrite madadhanam Katam sakaustuva Bhaksha, the chest, Adivasam, the abode, Rishabhasya, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mahavibhute, of Mahalakshmi, Pungsang, of persons, Mana, to the mind, Narayana, to the eyes, Kandham, the neck, Cha, also, Kaustuba Mane, of the Kaustuba gem, Adibhushana Artam, which enhances the beauty. Kuriyat, he should meditate on. Manasi, in the mind. Akhila Loka, by the entire universe. Namaskritasya, who is adored. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Swami Prabhupada. The yogi should then meditate on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the abode of the goddess Mahalakshmi. The Lord's chest is the source of all transcendental pleasure for the mind and full satisfaction for the eyes. The yogi should then imprint on his mind the neck of the Personality of Godhead, who is adored by the entire universe. The neck of the Lord serves to enhance the beauty of the Kaustuba gem, which hangs on his chest. Purport. In the Upanishads it is said that the various energies of the Lord are working to create, destroy, and maintain. These inconceivable varieties of energy are stored in the bosom of the Lord. As people generally say, God is all-powerful. That prowess is represented by Mahalakshmi, the reservoir of all energies, who is situated on the bosom of the transcendental form of the Lord. The yogi who can meditate perfectly on that spot, on the transcendental form of the Lord, can derive many material powers, which comprise the 8 perfections of the yoga system. It is stated herein that the beauty of the neck of the Lord enhances the beauty of the Kaustuba gem, rather than vice versa. The gem itself becomes more beautiful because it is situated on the neck of the Lord. A yogi is therefore recommended to meditate upon the Lord's neck. The Lord's transcendental form can either be meditated upon in the mind or placed in a temple in the Lord's transcendental form can either be meditated upon in the mind or placed in a temple in the form of a statue and decorated in such a way that everyone can contemplate it. Temple worship is therefore meant for persons who are not so advanced that they can meditate upon the form of the Lord. There is no difference between constantly visiting the temple and directly seeing the transcendental form of the Lord. They are of equal value. The advantageous position of the yogi is that he can sit anywhere in a solitary place and meditate upon the form of the Lord. A less advanced person, however, has to go to the temple, and as long as he does not go to the temple, he is unable to see the form of the Lord. Either by hearing, seeing, or meditating, the objective is the transcendental form of the Lord. There is no question of voidness or impersonalism. The Lord can bestow the blessings of transcendental pleasure upon either the visitor of the temple, the meditator yogi, or one who hears about the Lord's transcendental form from scriptures like the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. There are 9 processes for executing devotional service, of which smaranam, or meditation, is one. Yogis take advantage of the process of smaranam, whereas bhakti yogis take special advantage of the process of hearing and chanting. Vakshari vasami shabasya mahavibhute pungsang manonayana nivritim madadhanam katam shakaustuva maneradi bhushanartam kuryan manasya kila loka namaskritasya. The yogi should then meditate on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the abode of the goddess Mahalakshmi. The Lord's chest is the source of all transcendental pleasure for the mind and full satisfaction for the eyes. The yogi should then imprint on his mind the neck of the Personality of Godhead, who is adored by the entire universe. The neck of the Lord serves to enhance the beauty of the Kaustuba gem, which hangs on his chest. Om Maginati Midannasya Pananjana Chaksumritam Yena Tasmai Shivadame Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagadama Yandadati Swapadantikam. So here we hear from the Srimad Bhagavatam about the process of meditating on the Lord. It says there's one verse in the Bhagavatam. Kite jayato vishnam tritayam jatakumakai dvapare parichayam kalau tattari kirtanat. The translation is what was obtained in Satya Yuga by dhyana, by meditating on the form of the Lord. That was obtained by sacrifices in Treta Yuga, and by worshipping the deity, or constructing big temples and worshiping the deities in the age of Dvapara Yuga, is obtained in this age of Kali Yuga, Kalautat Kirtana, Hari Kirtan, by the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So this process, which is mentioned here, the meditation, is Sankhya Yoga, or dhyana, meditating on the form of the Lord, is a very systematic process. It requires a lot of facilities, a lot of qualification to be successful in that discipline. Just like Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, as you saw, mentioned this process, the 6th chapter. And in the end, Arjuna tells him that this is not possible for me. Like these certain principles are very difficult nowadays. For example, yam niyam. The first two principles, and actually in that form of yoga, there are many do's and don'ts. Things you should do, or you should qualify before you go into the forest to meditate, to practice yoga. Nowadays, yoga is more or less like this, I say, gymnastics, or like kind of that kind of simple thing. But actually, the yogis are supposed to go to the forest and live alone. They had to be completely free of anxiety, and they had also to be celibate. These were the first principles that I mentioned. And then they had to construct a seat to sit on. And all these principles were very, very exact, Also looking in a certain direction. Then the seat had to be covered with the skin of a deer or a tiger. All these things, principles had Bedeutung, Bedeutung? Had a meaning. And then the yogi had to sit on it. Why the skins? Because these skins would reject reptiles, or snakes and all this. And then the yogi was supposed to look at the tip of the nose. Tip of the nose with half closed eyes. Why is this? Because when you keep your eyes open, especially when you sit in the forest, in the jungle, so much variety, so many new things you're going to see, you'll be distracted. And in cases you close your eyes completely, then you tend to sleep. I had a class taught a while ago, Prabhupada, speaking about that. He said that he saw it himself, the yogis with closed eyes, how they tend to fall asleep. And then the yogi had to learn how to control the mind and the senses. Very difficult. Control the senses and the mind. And then in this way, gradually come to identify himself as spirit soul. Taking all the coverings, so-called coverings from his existence. And Prabhupada gives the example, just like when you have a zwiebel. What is zwiebel? Like you have an onion, and you take in all the skins off, and in the end you come to the kern. What is that? To the core. You come to the core, understanding who you are really, as eternal soul. And samadhi. Samadhi means complete absorption without any distraction. Being able to fix your mind completely. And in what? Like Prabhupada mentions here, not in something impersonal or something imaginary or something invented, but actually on the super soul. On the super soul. And then I remember I heard one class of Prabhupada, he said, when they actually came to visualize the Paramatma in the heart, then naturally they felt attracted to this super soul, because it was so beautiful, and he loved it, same affection, love, and then Prabhupada said actually love is expressed by activity. When you love somebody, you tend to serve that person. You find out what is it that he likes or she likes, or what not, and you start service, expressing your loving affection. And then, like we heard here in the purport that whereas Bhakti Yoga, Bhakti, this service with affection, or with loving service, is what is preached in this age by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He actually brought us directly to the essence. Normally in bygone ages they wouldn't worship Krishna. They would worship Narayana or Rama, Sita Ram, Lakshman, Hanuman, like that. Whereas in this, like a servitude, how you say servitude? Respectful servitude. And whereas in this age, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he revealed the Madhurya Ras, the loving, how you say, conjugal, how is it in English? Conjugal relationship. Yeah, I remember there was a walk with Srila Prabhupada in Mumbai. They say Mumbai nowadays. Before we said Bombay. Anyway, so Prabhupada was walking on the beach. What was that beach again? The name of the beach? Juhu. Yeah, Juhu. He was walking in Juhu. And while he was walking, there was a Dr. Kapoor. He was very learned. And actually he was very learned also in Shastra, and he learned many verses like that, many shlokas. And Prabhupada actually liked to discuss with him, because it was pretty elevated discussion, very, how you say, philosophical discussion. And sometimes this discussion was very strong. And in this condition, sometimes the disciples of Prabhupada became very disturbed. How this Dr. Kapoor, was challenging Prabhupada and arguing with Prabhupada and all that. Sometimes it was pretty heavy. And at one point, the doctor said, the devotees were expressing their affection to Prabhupada, and he said, yes, I'm also your disciple. And Prabhupada said, no, you're not my disciple. You are not active yet in devotional service. You are the neutral, the neutral state, neutral relationship. You're just observing, but you haven't surrendered. It requires actually surrender for devotional service. This is actually our defect in the material world. We're not willing to surrender to Krishna, surrender to God, but we can't stop surrendering because it's our tendency to serve. As eternal soul, we eternally servants. We just change the objects of our affection, but so and Bhakti Yoga, as taught by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially, helps us to purify the heart. There's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam that says, Kaler dosha nireja asti heko mahanguna kirtanat Kaler dosha nireja asti mahe kirtanadeva krishna se mukta sangha param bhaja. It's mentioned there that this Kali Yuga is compared to an ocean of faults, uncountable deficiencies. How you say? Deficiencies, errors. Yeah, but then it says eko mahanguna. Eko means one. Mahanguna, there's a very special, big quality in this age of Kali. What is that? The chanting of the holy name. All the other processes mentioned in this verse that I mentioned before, relating to the 4 yugas, these processes are not possible anymore. Whereas we are actually very fortunate to have been presented by Srila Prabhupada, as representative of Srila Prabhupada, to this process of chanting the holy name. Harinama, Harinama, Harinama iva kevalam kalavanasteva nasteva gatidanyata. And also there's a, where's my glasses? No. Regarding yoga, there's a very nice, you might all know this verse from Bhagavad Gita. There's a very nice verse in Bhagavad Gita. This is the conclusion, the last verse in the 6th chapter where Krishna was speaking about yoga. It goes, Yogi namapi sarvesham mat katinantaratmana shalavam padati yomam sa mi yuktatamo mataha. Of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides on me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendent loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. So Srila Prabhupada gives a very nice in part of the explanation that Prabhupada gives about that, he says the culmination of all kinds of yoga practice lies in Bhakti Yoga. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of Bhakti in Bhakti Yoga. Yoga actually means Bhakti Yoga. All other yogas are progressions towards the destination of Bhakti Yoga. From the beginning of Karma Yoga to the end of Bhakti Yoga is a long way to self-realization. Karma Yoga without fruitive results is the beginning of this path. When Karma Yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, this stage is called Jnana Yoga. When Jnana Yoga increases in meditation on the Supersoul by different physical processes and the mind is on Him, it is called Astanga Yoga. And when one surpasses the Astanga Yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is called Bhakti Yoga, the culmination. Factually, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal. But to analyze Bhakti Yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by the particular name: Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, or Dhyana Yogi, Raja Yogi, Hatha Yogi, etc. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all other yogas. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga. Just as when we speak of Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountains, of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. And there's a verse that Prabhupada quotes also here, very nice verse. Ya esham purusham sakshat atma prabhavam ishvaram na bhajanti avajananti stanat bhasta patanti adaha. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. So unless one comes to the point of Bhakti Yoga, there's no guarantee. Or even, it says even, if one doesn't come to the point of devotional service, he will fall down. So, and then in the end of the verse from today, Prabhupada is mentioning that the devotional service consists of the 9 processes. And he mentions here that the yogis, the advanced yogis, they're more into they're practicing the 3rd principle, smaranam, meditation. Actually, all these 9 processes, they have certain personalities representing them. Shravanam was hearing was Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj. He became completely perfect by hearing from Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami, Shravanam, Kirtanam. He's a representative of Kirtanam. Actually, he was a very special personality, as we know. He was actually self-realized within the womb of his mother. And he didn't want to come out, didn't want to take birth, to not get entangled with unnecessary activities and like this. And it says in the Bhagavatam that at that time, Vedavyas, who was his father, was very preoccupied because he stayed in the womb of his mother for 16 years. It's unimaginable to stay in the womb. Your child, how long did it stay in the womb? Like 9 months, 10. Prabhupada often said 10 months. You know what that means, 10 months? We, in the West, we know 9 months.
According to the
the moon calendar. Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. Anyway, so so he was staying in the womb of his mother, and Vyasadeva couldn't convince him to take birth, to come out. And he was very fortunate because Krishna was also present at that time. And he asked Krishna for his help. So Krishna appeared and he told him, now take birth. When Shukadeva Swami heard from Krishna, he got this instruction from Krishna, so he came out. And as he was fully developed, he just got up and started walking away. As he was born, I say naked. And it says he had long hair. And Prabhupada said something in this regard. He said something very interesting. He said, at 16 years, the man manifests his maximum beauty. How do you say that? What is it, maximum in English? Yeah, maximum beauty. So he just started walking. He wasn't interested in anything else than to preach. He had actually received within the womb. He had received the Srimad Bhagavatam from his father. So he was very eager to give this, preach this message to people. And somehow, and it says he was wandering around. Actually, Prabhupada says in one purport, he said, he traveled all around the world. I don't know what that means in this case. All around the world, And it's mentioned that he to get milk, he only taken milk, so he was going to at the proper time. He would see the householders and begged for some milk. Anyway, so it says that he didn't find any person who was, really interested in what he was supposed to preach. Until he came to a special place. It's mentioned that Parikshit Maharaj had renounced. And Prabhupada mentioned in regards to Parikshit Maharaj, he was one of these incredible examples of holy kings. And even though they were situated in a big opulence, they had unlimited power and all that, they were practically representatives of God. So they were able to renounce, in 1 second they would renounce all this. Beautiful wives, they had wives, they had more wives. And they were incredibly opulent, rich. And they were able to renounce just in a minute. And go to the forest, or like in the case of Parikshit Maharaj, when he heard about the curse that he was supposed to die, give up his body in 7 days, he immediately renounced and went to the the beach, Strand, beach, Yeah. What? Huh? Yeah, to the river. He went to the riverbed. And he was actually not even dressed. He just was wearing his underwear, Brahminical underwear. And these news spread immediately because he was such a important personality. He was the last descendant of the Pandavas. So he was famous all over. And it says that from different planets even, great personalities appeared, to be the witnesses, the witness on how he would give up his body. Because the Shastras say actually the most important moment in our life, or the most important Prüfung, test, is that how we encounter death. If we haven't prepared ourselves properly, then it's the biggest catastrophe. We go down to the lower forms of life. But if we have used our lives properly, according to Shastra, then at the time of death, we will be able to remember the Supreme Personality of God. So because he had been a big, famous devotee, so many personalities appeared to be witness of what happened at the time of death of Parikshit. And he even asked some of these personalities advice. What to do? What should he do preparing for death? But he wasn't satisfied by the answers. And then all of a sudden they saw a person coming from far away, Shukadeva Goswami. And Prabhupada says that immediately all these highly educated personalities could recognize this was a great person, a very special personality. Mahajan. Not Mahajan, there was another expression. His hands went down to the knees, and other symptoms like I remember now. And because such a great personality was appearing, they all got up. They didn't keep sitting there. Out of respect, they got up, and the person came closer and closer, and then Parikshit Maharaj received him, offered him an elevated seat. I don't know where he got this elevated seat all of a sudden. He was sitting on the beach. Anyway, so then he offered him prayers, very respectful. It's a whole thing. Especially in Vedic culture, we learn so much etiquette also, how to receive important personalities. Just like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met the leader of the impersonate, what's the name? Prakasananda Saraswati. It says when he approached that meeting and he had washed his feet, Prakasananda Saraswati personally came to get him into the meeting. So then Parikshit Maharaj asked him this question, that what is a person supposed to hear, chant, remember, worship at the time of death? Confronting, how do you say, embarking for death, or how is it in English? Anyway, yeah. So when Shukadeva Swami heard these questions, he became completely ecstatic. And he was so impressed with these questions, that he became ecstatic, and he started glorifying these questions. And after a while, he answered. This is the first in the big. This is how the first canto ends, with the glorifications of anyway. And then he answers. He said, now a person is about to die. He should hear, he should chant, he should remember, he should worship the Supreme Personality of God. So and then the discussion ensued. This most important discussion about topics so important that Bhagavatam is considered to be the ripened, the most ripe fruit on the tree of Vedic knowledge. And actually we are very fortunate to have been given the Srimad Bhagavatam, this special Shastra, glorified, so much glorified by great personalities. By Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada considered the translation of the Bhagavatam his most important contribution. Yes. Until the very end, Prabhupada was actually dictating, translating and dictating his purpose to Srimad Bhagavatam. There's a video, the last lesson, how you say? The last lesson? The final lesson. And you can see Prabhupada and Vrindavan on the bed. Actually, at that point, Prabhupada couldn't move anymore. Whatever they always had to carry him around and this and that. He couldn't move anymore. But he continued with his dictating his purpose of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Jaitvaita Maharaj was there, and Pradyumna was his. Prabhupada called him his Pandit. He would quote the Sanskrit, and Jaitvaita Maharaj was holding the microphone. And in that condition, when you look at the Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, where Prabhupada was dictating in the end, there was no difference. Actually, you can even notice that Prabhupada was even quoting more Shastra. Prabhupada said once that preaching means Shastra. There's no preaching without Shastra. Anyway, so Prabhupada was dictating until the very end. And I heard that at that point, in the very end. And before Prabhupada, only certain persons were allowed to approach Prabhupada. During our movement, in the beginning, the first devotees who were with Srila Prabhupada had a very personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada. They would be able to talk to him about anything. And he would invite them to eat to his room like that. Very personal. But then in due course, as the movement expanded more and more, I remember there was a letter written by the secretary of Srila Prabhupada. It was sent to all the temples all over the world. Now, please don't write to Prabhupada anymore. Try to solve your problems, or ask your questions to the local authorities. At that time, actually, Prabhupada gave a lot of importance to the temple presidents, and the directors of the temples and the GBCs. And I remember when this letter came, our president, I don't want to mention his name, he became very agitated. He thought that, he said, this is the politics of the secretary of Srila Prabhupada, like that. Yeah, but then in the end, it was like that. Until the end, at the end, devotees had direct access to Srila Prabhupada. When you see that last lesson, this video, even some children are giving, massage to Prabhupada. You could see people coming from the street, looking at Srila Prabhupada like that. Yeah. Anyway, so this is how Prabhupada, the mood of Srila Prabhupada before he left. Yeah. And I remember there was a disciple, a godbrother of Srila Prabhupada, who came to see him. And this godbrother was very close to Srila Prabhupada, but there was some, distance that he always kept to Prabhupada's disciples. For example, when he came to the temple or came to Mayapur like that, he would never touch the prasad, because he couldn't accept the Westerners as bona fide offerers, like that. And then this same godbrother came to Srila Prabhupada when he was in that condition. And he said to Prabhupada, is there anything I can do for you to satisfy you? And Prabhupada said, yes, take the prasad. Cooked by my disciples. Anyway, so we got almost. When is the class? Huh? I don't know, Actually, there was also another godbrother of Srila Prabhupada who would always come to Mayapur. But he wouldn't say a word. He would only chant Hare Krishna. He would sit there, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. He was always chanting. I remember his name now. Very humble. He would always sit there and chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada would appreciate, would respect him very much. Yeah. So maybe any questions? Yes.
During your presentation, a question came to my mind in regards to the other ages besides the Kali Yuga. We see that, and you quoted the verse that other processes, not the chanting, are recommended processes. Are they recommended processes for practicing bhakti?
Yeah, but the conditions were different. Because the conditions were very different. For example, Prabhupada said in Satya Yuga or Krita Yuga, people had a lot of facilities. They were not like now, they had so much time also.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, I got that. But
For example, the compiler, remember, Valmiki Muni, Prabhupada said he meditated for 60,000 years before he was able to compile the Ramayana. So the conditions were very different. They were more based on the mode of goodness. We can imagine what that means. Nowadays, everyone is completely with luck and passion, but mostly in the mode of ignorance. Yeah, without any proper education, without any proper guidance, they do anything. Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, I got that.
Yeah?
I was just wondering, because I don't remember reading anywhere very specifically being stated, like it is stated for the chanting, that the chanting is a means to practice bhakti.
Mm-hmm.
So in other ages, when other processes are recommended, like meditation in Satya Yuga, is that meditation recommended as a means to practice bhakti?
Yeah, actually, it says that in the end, the yogi was supposed to. Actually, it's only mentioned in the verse that I quoted, dhyana.
Yes.
And he would dhyana meditate on Vishnu.
Correct.
They would come to the point of realizing Vishnu within the heart. Yeah. And I mentioned that I heard Prabhupada say that when the yogi was actually really advanced, he naturally felt attracted to the Paramatma, the beauty and everything, and would surrender and develop some loving relationship. And Prabhupada said the loving relationship means bhakti yoga, no bhakti. Yeah, yeah, that was a goal. But I like I mentioned, it was not up to Krishna. No, not to Krishna is very, very confidential. No, the pastimes of Krishna very, very, very elevated. You know. But it was relationship to Vishnu or the Narayan or like this. Because those forms, these majestic forms, they're worshipped with awe and reverence. Yeah? There's always a distance. You wouldn't like the king, Prabhupada's like the king. You couldn't just walk into the palace and lay down in the same bed with the king like that. Yeah. But in the case of Krishna, it's very, very different. Yeah, I don't know if you answered. Yeah, you sure? Somebody else? Yeah.
But when he was in the beginning with his disciples, there was a very personal relationship between Prabhupada and the first disciples, very familiar, and later on it became more like an institution.
More distant, yeah.
More distant, yeah. But we know that when Srila Prabhupada first time came to Germany, there was hardly anybody there, so there was actually Janmashtami celebration, and also
I was initiated at the Janmashtami ceremony.
Yes. So this was my question. How did it change in Germany from this point where basically you were almost alone with Srila Prabhupada and Shivananda, I guess?
Yeah.
And
there was a time in the beginning we would write letters to Prabhupada. And when the devotees didn't write letters to Prabhupada, he asked, why isn't he writing letters? What's going on? Yeah, yeah. And how is he doing like that? And in Germany, at that time when Prabhupada came in 1969, we were only a handful of devotees. You know. We had Jagannaths on the altar, but nobody knew how to worship them. They were naked. Nobody dressed them and put a crown on them. And we had even the Ratha Yatra. We put the deities on the palanquin. Jayagora. No, he in one meeting he said, now we have our first Ratha Yatra in Hamburg. No? And I had to correct him There was a Jatra Yatra already before that. Much smaller, very small scale. Yeah. Anyway, and when I told this, I mentioned it many times, when Prabhupada came, he was accompanied by Purushottam, his servant. And Purushottam was not dressed in ropa, devotional clothes. But he was wearing a jacket. How is jacket? Not a jacket. Like a part of a suit. How you say this? What is that called in English? Yeah, kind of, yeah. And he was shaved, he had tilak on in the sika, and he had a chain around his neck with a big juggernaut hanging around his neck. That was because Jagannath had become very popular amongst the devotees. After the first Ratha Yatra they did in San Francisco and other. Yeah. Anyway, so he came, Prabhupada came, accompanied by Purushottam, and then he moved into a small apartment that we had gotten for Srila Prabhupada. And at that time, Prabhupada was traveling with small Radha Krishna deities. So when they moved in, when we went up to see Prabhupada, Prabhupada was chanting. He had some Indian gentleman had loaned us a harmonium. Prabhupada was playing, but he was playing a different melody than we sing today. Kiba Jayo Jaya Gora Chane. That was a melody Prabhupada was chanting. Yeah. And Purushottam had changed. He was dressed in dhoti and kurta and was making the arti to the deities. We had never seen that before. And after they moved out, when Prabhupada left, this whole shrank, what is a shrank in English again? This cupboard where the deities had been, was all black, from the ghee lamps and who knows what. And we had to renovate the whole thing there. Yeah. And in the kitchen, it happened the same thing. Shivananda was learning from Prabhupada how to cook. And they had an explosion there in the kitchen. When you do dal, and you put the chawns in the dal, you have to be very careful. You have to put the ladle under it and close it immediately so it doesn't explode. And he had, but it had exploded. And in the kitchen, everyone, there was the spots from the ghee, We also had to renovate that place. No, anyway, so this was very simple. Prabhupada was very personal. Like I went into Prabhupada's room, I had gotten something for Srila Prabhupada, and Purushottam said, go in, give it to Srila Prabhupada. So I went in and explained, there was actually a tape recorder. And before leaving, I asked Srila Prabhupada, can I become your disciple? And he moved his head like this. All my disciples know that. In India, when you say yes, you go like this. And then a few days later, there was Janmashtami, and we were initiated. And Prabhupada was making the fire sacrifice. He was sitting on the same level as we. With a ladle and everything. And then he gave us the names. At that time, it was not like nowadays when especially those gurus have many disciples. They chant they chant on the beats of the future disciples before the ceremony. But at that time, Prabhupada was chanting on the beats, and then would he give, and then again would chant on the beats and then give the name. A little different. Yeah, we went out with Prabhupada, walking with Prabhupada. And it was very special. He came to Hamburg. Hamburg has a big port. So we had no idea how to, Prabhupada wanted to walk. We had no idea how to, where to lead him, where to go with him. And so we thought, well, all the tourists go down to the harbor, See the big ships and the docks where they construct ships and all that. So many tourists go there. So we went there. We went on underground. We had no car. We went in underground with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was sitting there and looking at the publicity. Yeah, and he had taken off his hat, this black hat he used at that time. And so then we went out, when we had to go out. And once we were out, all of a sudden somebody discovered, oh, Prabhupada left his hat on the seat. No? And immediately, two devotees, one jumped in, the other held the doors of the underground. And luckily got the hat and jumped out and gave it to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was observing the whole scene there. Yes, in this way there was a very personal relationship with Prabhupada. Later on, when we saw Prabhupada, we saw him sitting on the Vyasa only. And we saw him from far away, because so many devotees, so many disciples, and other. Yeah. And those who were allowed to walk out with him on the morning walks, a very selected devotees only. Yeah. Devotees who had great responsibilities, and Prabhupada actually wanted to talk with them. Yeah. But in the beginning, everyone would just get on the group. I mentioned that once before. We went to London. Ratha Yatra. Prabhupada used to come to Ratha Yatra in London. So we went out walking with Prabhupada. And I was walking right behind Srila Prabhupada. Yeah? And Prabhupada had this custom that all of a sudden he would stop, because somebody had asked him some question, he had to give some attention like that. Yeah? And I was walking right behind him, and I almost dashed into him. It came so close, And Prabhupada looked around and gave me a blick. How you say blick? A view. I never forget. I became like all frozen. Huh? Yeah, gave me a look. Yeah. Anyway, so that much. Any question? Any more questions? Did I actually give a comment for your comment? No. Can you ask again?
I said we want to hear more of his time. It seems like such blissful time, we never tired of hearing about his time.
The problem was when I started talking about Srila Prabhupada, I'd not be able to stop. And it's time to stop now, no? So many details, so many things. Anybody else has a comment? You want to say something? What called your attention? Maybe.
What caught my attention in
Yeah.
the presentation? Well, because it is my service, I lecture a lot. And when I'm in the audience and when the verse is read and the purport is read, I'm thinking, what would I say? And then I'm...
oh, that's what you thought. Oh. That was called your attention.
And then for that reason, I'm very interested to see where will the speaker take the
subject.
Take the subject matter. Yeah. And I mean, it's always a bhakti journey, listening to other devotees spring off of the verse in Prabhupada's purport and
get into other things. Yeah. There was not a clear line then.
Excuse me?
There was not a clear line.
No clear line.
Like this.
I mean, it started off with meditation and how meditation is a process recommended for some other age like that. And then in this age, we practice our meditation through chanting. Actually, chanting is our practice like that. And I don't mean to flatter you, but very simple words, very simple presentation, and struck me deep.
Hare Krishna. Wolltest du noch was sagen? Rajendra?
Yes, the point of Prabhupada's meditation was always to go deep in Krishna, to go deep. You mentioned it that the main point is the Shravanam Kirtanam, and then you mentioned also the last days of Prabhupada when he was speaking on the certain chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada, and you said also that he was mentioned many verses quoting Shastra in the end of his. And then when I read this chapter, the certain chapter, I was becoming aware that Prabhupada mentioned one verse 2 times in this chapter. And this is this verse that he said, I'm deeply meditating about Nanda Maharaj.
Nanda Maharaj.
Nanda Maharaj, because in his courtyard Krishna is playing as a child. So others may study the scriptures and argue about the scriptures out of fear of the material illusion, but what I'm doing is only meditating about Krishna. And I thought this is the point what you was telling about in the morning, that we are coming to Bhakti Yoga, to the practice of Bhakti, to the loving relationship to the Lord.
Okay. Srila Prabhupada ke, Srimad Bhagavatam ke.